Certified Pega Lead System Architect, CPLSA, Exam 8.8 PEGACPLSA88V1 updated dumps questions are valuable in your preparation. Share some PEGACPLSA88V1 exam updated dumps questions here. 1. A software training company wants to hold a webinar on a particular subject if a sufficient number of people express an interest in attending. An instructor is tasked with developing the webinar presentation, if they get enough people to register. There is no limit on the number of attendees. Which case design pattern is the best solution in this scenario? A. Divide and conquer. B. Sibling case update. C. Data instance first. D. Data instance after. 2. A local ferry service offers a passenger boat trip that travels from Port A to Port B, and then back again, once a day. Passengers can book tickets using an app, and they often try to make last-minute reservations for the outbound trip. The ferry service wants their app to place a passenger on a waiting list for the first trip, while guaranteeing them a reservation for the second trip. Which two case design patterns apply to this scenario? Choose 2. A. Limited availability and concurrency. B. Parallel case processing. C. Divide and conquer. D. Data instance first. 3. A Pega developer working on customizing GetNextWork functionality has overridden the GetNextWork_work basket urgency threshold application settings rule, because they want to define a minimum cutoff value for assignment urgency. Overriding this value can speed things up by changing the order in which assignment candidates are examined. As an LSA, which one of the following would you recommend as a best practice in this situation? A. To simplify migration, create a separate rule set for customization of GetNextWork functionality. B. To keep in sync with the work list, change the urgency threshold for the work list as well. C. To avoid customization, do not approve check-in of the rule. D. To simplify testing of GetNextWork functionality, supply different cutoffs for different production levels. 4. An organization wants to know about failed authentication attempts to gain access to a Pega Platform application. How do you log information about unauthorized access or failed login attempts? A. Enable the content security policy and generate the required reports of failed login. B. Integrate with third-party security tools to find the failed login. C. Enable the security audit and get the information related to failed login. D. Add a utility to the session management operations. 5. An organization has two sets of users, manager and vice president, with no role dependencies. The organization wants to introduce a new set of users called senior manager that has manager access and a subset of vice president access. What is the recommended approach to add the senior manager role to meet this requirement? A. Create a new senior manager role, and define new access of role to object rules as required. B. Create a new senior manager role with manager as a dependent role, and define new access of role to object rules as required. C. Create a new senior manager role with vice president as a dependent role, and override access of role to object rules as required. D. Create a new senior manager role with manager and vice president as dependent roles, and override the access of role to object rules from the vice president role as required. 6. In a human resources application, the social security number, SSN, and date of birth details for employees are confidential, and business requirements state that only the HR manager can see these details. What is the best approach to mask the information for other users everywhere in the application? A. Use the property read access control policy for the SSN and date of birth. B. Add the privilege rule for the UI controls that display the SSN and date of birth. C. Add an access when rule for access role objects of the HR manager role. D. Use the property encrypt access control policy for the SSN and date of birth. 7. A system architect wants to save the results from running a data page as an automated test. The system architect reports that the system cannot save the test definition. What is the reason? A. The Pega Autotest agent is configured, but not running. B. The data page is checked out or in private edit mode. C. A rule set to store test cases is not configured. D. The system architect lacks the automated unit test privilege. 8. An external application calls a Pega REST service, which takes a significant amount of time to respond. Pega Platform returns a unique identifier instantly and runs the service without the application waiting. Which configuration implements this functionality? A. A REST service that runs queue for agent method, and then returns a unique ID. B. A REST service that runs asynchronously by using a service request processor. C. A REST service that runs a connector in parallel to call a Pega server. D. A REST service that runs a spin-off flow to run the service asynchronously. 9. In a production system, a queue processor is not running. What option might be the potential root cause? A. Web user node is down. B. Real-time node is down. C. Background node is down. D. Stream node is down. 10. A shipping case needs to wait for a designated time period before progressing in its flow. The developer considers using either a wait shape or an assignment with a service level agreement, SLA, to perform this function. Identify the use case where an assignment with an SLA is the preferred approach. A. There is a requirement to present a custom UI form to the user before the designated time. B. There is a requirement to perform an action before the designated time. C. There is a requirement to adjust the case urgency when the creation of the assignment occurs. D. There is a requirement to manually step past the waiting point before the designated time.